Freedom in the abstract makes for a very stupid God. In many progressive cities across the United States, heroin addicts are free to spend their days shooting up while living in the squalor of homeless encampments that now line urban streets. But only the most deranged ideologue would see this as a blessing. Anyone who truly understands human nature knows that our impulse is to make ourselves slaves in one manner or another. Left entirely to our own devices, the isolated individual tends to suffer from a thirst for annihilation, indulging in excess or deprivation of some kind that will bring ruin. This tragic understanding of the human condition brought most pre-modern thinkers to the conclusion that ordered liberty was the ideal, but that this state could only be achieved through the cultivation of virtue. Americans have been taught to repeat endless slogans about rights and freedoms, but very little about the necessity of virtue, and this has created a nation hungry for the fruit of a tree that was left to wither long ago. The error from the left is profound but obvious, so we'll begin there. The progressive worldview is utopian, denying man's tragic nature and assuming that all negative outcomes are the function of a faulty system. Men are born free after all, but find themselves chained to traditions, religions, families, and economic systems that oppress them. The individual requires a powerful state that can protect an ever-expanding list of rights which will free everyone to pursue their true and excellent nature. When the free individual ends up miserable without family or purpose, filling their dull lives with consumption and distraction, the progressive is incapable of re-examining their priors. Capitalism, the patriarchy, Christianity, whiteness, or some other abstract enemy is to blame, and the system demands more power so it can guarantee additional rights or freedoms. On the right, the error is more subtle but no less serious. Conservatives and libertarians tend to see liberty as the goal, but often share the same confusion about how this is to be achieved. While they may disagree about the final size or shape of the state, both generally agree that smaller government bound by constitutional principles is the key to obtaining the desired outcome. The mistake here lies in the order of operations, assuming that virtue is the result of liberty rather than understanding that liberty can only be enjoyed by a people who have first cultivated a high degree of virtue. Niccolo Machiavelli is famous for his book The Prince, where the political philosopher advises prospective monarchs on how to gain and retain power. This leads most readers to believe that the Florentine diplomat was a supporter of autocracy, when in truth Machiavelli championed the superior nature of republican government in his less infamous but more profound work, Discourses on Livy. For Machiavelli, the key factor that made republican government possible was the virtue of the people. Under a monarchy, the people didn't need to practice a high degree of self-discipline. The king acted as a father to the nation, settling disputes and making the critical decisions that required foresight and discipline. The king provided order, and that order allowed the people to prosper even if they didn't have the character to rule themselves. Order is more necessary for human flourishing than freedom, a lesson that many who have always lived under the benefit of a stable civilization often forget. In a republic, there are still those that govern, but the people have a much larger degree of input on how the state operates. If the people are weak or frivolous, then they will simply demand more money and benefits from the state, which they are incapable of obtaining on their own. In an ideal republic, the government is small because the people are already bound together by a shared moral vision that allows them to cultivate virtue. The Founding Fathers were very aware of this limitation, which is why John Adams famously stated, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate for the governance of any other." Any nation can create a republic, but to keep it requires a dedication not just to self-governance, but the governance of self. Hey guys, let me tell you about today's sponsor, Job Stacking. More paychecks, less hustle, working from home, that's what job stacking is all about. If you're a remote or hybrid worker looking to maximize your earning potential, then consider joining the Job Stacking Mentorship Program. The program is designed by Ralph Haltza, the creator of Job Stacking, to help you successfully implement a strategy that will allow you to collect multiple paychecks from different jobs without burning out or getting caught by employers. Job stacking has already helped many people double or even triple their incomes. Luke Hill, a financial analyst living in the UK, has used job stacking to stack 3 different jobs and went from making 5K a month to 15K a month. But job stacking isn't just about increasing incomes, it's also about helping our guys gain more independence by no longer being a slave to debt or a single employer who hates their values. Andrew Gustafsson, a credit analyst from Australia, is now stacking 4 salaries, which he has used to pay off his personal and student debt and buy a home for his family. If you don't currently have a remote job, no worries. The program is also designed to help you land remote jobs so that you can go ahead and get started. So if you want to double your income and stop relying on a single paycheck from a woke employer, go to jobstacking.com/start now. That's jobstacking.com/start now and book a call with Rolf today. Ordered liberty is not the freedom to pursue every base desire, but the ability to pursue virtue inside a shared understanding of the good. That's why Machiavelli agreed with Aristotle that virtue requires community. The individual is not virtuous in isolation, but must exercise that virtue by pursuing the good in relation to friends, family, religion, and business. Without order, we can't have community or understand our role inside of it. Order is a precondition for community. Community is a precondition for virtue. Liberty is the rare and delicate fruit of a society which is virtuous. Machiavelli may have recognized the necessity for virtue in a republic, but his reputation as a ruthless political realist is well earned. The philosopher understood that the establishment of order was a messy business, which often required a leader to commit morally questionable acts. This is why republics, such as that of ancient Rome, are often born out of monarchies where order has been well established and community had allowed virtue to flourish. The United States itself was born out of a monarchy which had established order in a new land, but those people had obtained a level of virtue that enabled liberty through self-governance. While the American people still retain an undeniable capacity for greatness, it would be difficult to argue that the current state of the nation would be best described as virtuous. Progressive activists have successfully driven Christianity from the public square and replaced it with their own hedonistic and secular faith. The resulting collapse of public and private morality makes restoration difficult for a people who founded their shared identity in a liberty which they no longer are capable of maintaining. Decadent societies often find themselves subject to Caesarism because they've lost the capacity to keep order, a reversion to the status of children who must once again be governed by a father. To go ahead and place all of my cards on the table, I find it very unlikely that the United States will collectively find its way back to Republican self-governance. Many Americans have abandoned the values and shared identity that once defined the country, and our ruling elites have gone out of their way to import populations who are entirely alien to that tradition. But if we are to find our way forward, it will start with organic communities of faithful and hardworking Americans who are still cultivating virtue. Small government, limited by a constitution, is not the means to liberty, but the hard-won prize of a community which has already learned to rule itself through virtue. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and click like. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is a great time to do so. If you'd like to get these broadcasts as podcasts, make sure that you go and subscribe to the Auron MacIntyre Show on your favorite podcast platform. And when you do, leave a rating or review. It really helps with the algorithm magic. And speaking of the algorithm magic, if you'd like to pick up my book, The Total State, you can do that on Amazon. And again, a rating or review there helps a lot. You can also pick it up at Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, or your local bookstore. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, or Gab, or Substack, or Instagram, if you'd like to watch these videos on Rumble or Odyssey, the links to do all of that are down below in the description. And of course, you can watch all of my episodes and read all of my columns over at The Blaze. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, I'll talk to you next time.